Hello, everyone out there in Rumble, X, and YouTube land. Welcome back to Diego Knows. I, of course, am Diego, and today we're going to talk some more about Wicked. That's right, Wicked, your movie, your gay-coded movie, okay, about the Wicked Witch of the West, who's not really wicked, and Glinda the Good Witch, who's not that good. Okay, it basically flips the whole narrative of The Wizard of Oz, okay? So basically what Gregory Maguire, the author of the book, which I have here, by the way, just to prove to you that I have listened to this entire thing, the whole thing, okay, unabridged. Now, granted, it was like 20-something years ago, but I did listen to it, right, the whole thing. So I know the story. So when they announced they were going to make the movie, I was like, okay, I'm interested. Sure, I'll watch it. You know, I love The Wizard of Oz. I watch it with my son. I have a little boy, and we watched The Wizard of Oz. In fact, a few weeks ago, there's a theater near here, and they were showing the 1939 Wizard of Oz there. Okay, now we've seen it on TV many times, my son and I, but I was like, yeah, let's watch it in a theater. The way it was meant to be watched, and it was pretty good. It was a pretty good experience. So I was pretty excited about that. And we watched The Wizard of Oz, this is like 3 weeks ago, okay? And of course we saw we saw this movie, Wicked, okay? I'd read the book. I've never seen the Broadway show. The reason I never saw the Broadway show is because I'm not gay, all right? But I have done musical theater in the past, and I know a lot of people that do musical theater and stuff. I worked with a lot of actors and stuff. And it's a bigger percentage of gay people in theater, especially musical theater, than straight people. Okay, than your average industries is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so it's not unusual for there to be a lot of gay characters or gay actors in Broadway shows, in musical shows. Okay, it's not unusual at all. And I'm not just talking about the performers, I'm talking about the writers, the directors, the producers, okay? A lot higher percent, they're not all gay obviously, but a higher percentage of gay people work in those industries than in other industries. For example, engineering, okay? You're not gonna find nearly as many gay people in engineering as you are in theater, okay? It's just the way it is, okay? No one forces gay people out of the engineering industry. No one does that, but they tend not to go towards those industries, okay? That's what America's about. You get to choose what industry you want to be in, for the most part, okay? And gay people, not all gay people, but those that want to be actors, it recruits a lot more gay than non-gay, okay? A lot more gay than you would think, all right? So whenever you hear all this crap about how Hollywood was persecuting gays in the 40s and the 30s, that's all crap, okay? A lot of people in Hollywood were gay. It's always been that way, okay? You got to remember that Hollywood was an offshoot of vaudeville. Okay, vaudeville was basically theater, okay, but it was Jewish. All right. Now you also had Broadway back then, but back then, Broadway, the theater, especially like in New York and stuff, was very racist. They didn't allow Jews in there, so the Jews created their own theater and they called it vaudeville. Okay, and then when that went out of fashion in the 30s, all those people transferred over into the motion picture industry. Okay, and the motion picture industry, although it was Edison who's credited with inventing the Nickelodeon, okay. Which is true. Okay, the birth of the film industry actually was Jewish. Okay, the first people that bought the movie theaters, okay, where you would pay to go in there and sit there and watch a 10-minute silent movie. Okay, those guys were the visionaries. They're like, hey, you know what? We should open up a chain of these little flicker places. They called them flickers back in the day. Okay, we should open up a chain of these. Okay, and they were all Jewish. Okay, so they started the first motion picture theaters. Okay, it was Jewish. Okay, and they said, hey, you know what? Instead of paying people to play so we can play their films, we should just make our own. And so they started making movies, mostly in New Jersey, actually, in New Jersey. Okay, and when that was profitable as well, they said, hey, you know what? Let's go out to where it's cheaper. Let's get some cheaper land. Okay, where it's better weather and stuff like that, because in Jersey, filming that there in the winter, no. Okay, so that's why they found Hollywood. That's how they just got Hollywood. It was called Hollywood Land back then, okay? And that's where they started. The first studios were set up there, all of them Jewish. All the studios, everything from Universal, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, okay? United Artists was actually Charlie Chaplin and what's his name, Douglas Fairbanks, but and Mary Pickford. Okay, but all the big studios, like all the first studios that were out there, Warner Brothers, Okay, 20th Century Fox. That was founded by Adolf Zucker. Okay, all that was Jewish. It was all completely Jewish. Okay, except for one. There's one exception. RKO. RKO. That was Howard Hughes, who's not Jewish. Okay, but other than that, all the other theaters were Jewish. All the film industries were Jewish. Okay, all the studios. Okay, they're all Jewish. All right, so they actually founded what today is the modern motion picture industry. Okay, and so what was I trying to go with that? Okay, so anyway, so yes, so that's how movies came out. All right, now obviously The Wizard of Oz was written way before that. It was written in 1888. Okay. Oh no, it was in 1900 when it was published, or it might have been 1880. I have to look that up. But L. Frank Baum created it. Now, if you know anything about L. Frank Baum, he actually was born into a wealthy family. He came from an oil family. Okay, but he squandered a lot of his inheritance. Okay, he wasted his money on a lot of crap. Okay, he tried to be a chicken farmer at one time. He was an actor. Okay, when he could get the work, he was really into acting. Okay, but he squandered a lot of his money on stupid little get rich quick schemes. Okay, he opened up a store that sold exotic things that nobody cared about. You know, just things like that. Okay, so he ended up making most of his money as a young man as a salesman, a traveling salesman. That's what he had to do. He had to sell like Chinese, he had to sell like Chinese dishware and stuff, you know, and that's how he made most of his money. Okay, he married this woman who, his wife's mother was a very famous feminist back in the turn of the century. Okay, like a Susan B. Anthony type of. So his mother-in-law hated him. Okay, and his family went broke, so he had to work for a living. Okay, by the time he was 40 years old, he was pretty much penniless. Okay, he was in bad health. Okay, and he was and he, you know, he had these kids. He had like, I think he had 4 kids that he had to support. Okay, and from traveling salesman. Okay, his body couldn't even take going on the road anymore. Okay, so basically everything that he had to throw it into his story. Now he grew up. He would tell a lot of stories to little kids. He would entertain little kids. He would take a real events in his life, and he would fictionalize them into this bigger narrative. Okay, he created this magical place. Okay, which he had no name for it yet. Okay, but this magical place, right? Where you could go there, and he would describe it in detail about how colorful it was, the waterfalls, the green, all the rainbow colored flowers that were all there and stuff, the little people that lived there. He had a midget that worked for him in one of his stores, and that's where he got the idea of a whole little town full of midgets. Munchkins is what he called them. All right, he had a story about, you know, the Scarecrow, you know, and a Tin Man. Okay, these are all things that came to him. Okay, he posed a Scarecrow in his display window, and the kids were asking about it, so he decided to come up with a story about this Scarecrow that he displayed on the store window, and that's where the Scarecrow came from. Okay, the whole idea about the Tin Man, I believe, if I get the story right, the Tin Man actually, he had lost his heart because he had been broken. Okay, and L. Frank Baum had been rejected by some girls before he met his wife. Okay, and that was his idea. Is like he was going to try to. It would be better to not feel for women. Okay, that hurt his feelings. So he would form this outer shell. That's where he got the Tin Man from. Okay, the Cowardly Lion. He got that idea from a duel. He was actually living in, I believe it was in Montana. He was living with his brother-in-law. That's where he opened up his store. Okay, and oh no, he was actually running a newspaper at the time because he'd been editor. He was a writer. He'd done that too. He was running the local newspaper, and he accidentally misprinted something in there. Okay, and so the husband, he accidentally offended this guy's wife or something. So the husband showed up, big burly man. He said, you offended my wife in this article you wrote in the paper, you know, and I want satisfaction. Well, he said like, okay, well, I'll write a retraction. I'm sorry. I'll write an apology in there. Okay, I'm sorry. I've been working like crazy. My health is not very good. He's like, no. He goes, you know, you offended my family. Okay, we're gonna have a duel. Okay, a shootout. Okay, now L. Frank Baum had never held a gun in his life. And also this guy wants to shoot him tomorrow morning. So he mustered up the courage. He couldn't bring himself to run away. He didn't want to come across as a coward, but he was scared to death. He's never been in a shootout before. Okay, so his brother-in-law gave him a gun to use and say, hey, let's just go out there and do it. You've got to, otherwise everyone in town is going to think you're yellow. So he went up there to have this duel with this man, this big burly man, right? And the guy was, and they talked crap to each other, all right. And L. Frank Baum was ready to take it out and just shoot him, right? May the best man win. But actually, he bluffed him and said like, "Oh yeah, well, I do my killing before breakfast," that kind of thing. So that happened, all right. And well, this big burly man at the last minute he got scared and he ran away. So all that huffing and puffing, okay, and beating his chest about how I'm going to kill you for offending my wife, okay, all that was crap. The truth is he was a coward. He was a coward. And that was where L. Frank Baum got the idea for the Cowardly Lion, a guy who looked like he was tough, but was actually a pussy. Okay, literally. Okay, that's where he got the idea for that. All right. He got the idea for Glinda from his wife, okay, who he loved very much. Who was very kind, supported him throughout all his, bullshit get-rich-quick schemes that he had. Okay, she supported him. She pushed him to finish writing a novel about all these stories that he was telling these kids. Okay, she's basically the impetus that pushed him towards getting The Wizard of Oz published. Okay, so Glinda was his wife, who was a very nice woman, not this bitch Ariana Grande's character from this movie. Okay, Glinda was actually very nice. Now, the one who was a real bitch was his mother-in-law, okay, who would come visit them from time to time, and she would just crucify L. Frank Baum, okay, for not having a real job, okay, for being on the road and neglecting his family, that kind of thing. And like I said, she was a diehard feminist. Okay, her daughter, L. Frank Baum's wife, had graduated from Columbia University, and what was she doing with that education? She was a housewife and a stay-at-home mom. Okay, so so of course his mother-in-law was angry with her daughter's choices and with the man that her daughter married. Okay, so this nagging bitchy woman would always come by to visit all the time and criticize him. So yeah, that's where he got Elphaba from. Right, who was not called Elphaba. The author of Wicked, Gregory Maguire, named her Elphaba, and he got the name Elphaba from L. Frank Baum. Okay. So he did not name her Elphaba. L. Frank Baum did not name the Wicked Witch of the West Elphaba. He did not give her a name. Okay, but that's where the Wicked Witch of the West came from. Okay, and as far as Dorothy goes, Dorothy was L. Frank Baum's niece. Now remember, I told you that he lived in Montana with his brother-in-law. Okay, well, his brother-in-law, they had a daughter. Okay, it was Frank Baum's niece, and she was a little girl, and she died of pneumonia as a little girl. And he had told her stories about the magical place. And even right now, I get choked up when I think about this, but he had loved this girl, this cute little girl, his niece. And he would tell her all these stories, and when she got really, really sick, you got to remember, this is the late 1800s. The medical industry wasn't anywhere near what it is today, okay? People died from pneumonia back then, all right? And this little girl got sick, okay? And she passed away. She passed away at the age of 9. Okay, and her name was Dorothy. And it devastated him. Devastated him. I can only imagine what that's like, And one of the reasons that he finished the book was in honor of her. Probably a lot of you didn't know that, did you? Okay, but yeah, there was a real Dorothy. And now she lives forever in the story. Okay? But all these different things got together, okay, to create the Wizard of Oz. Okay, one of the only fairy tale in existence that was American, at least the only popular one. All the other fairy tales were European. Okay, so so he really did something special when he created. He really put a lot of himself into the Wizard of Oz. Okay, even the name Oz, kids would ask him, "What's the name of this magical place?" He always called it the magical place. What is the name of it? And he didn't know what the name was, but he had a file cabinets in his office, and he saw there, there's A through N is one cabinet, and the other cabinet was O through Z. So that's where he got the O through Z, O-Z, Oz. He's called Oz. That's where he got the name from, Oz, right? From his file cabinet, okay? And the whole idea of the Emerald City, where did he get that from? Well, in 1880, the World's Fair in Chicago was in 1883. Okay, there was the World's Fair. It was in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, and the guy that was in charge of making the World's Fair, his name was Frank Burnham. Okay, he was a very famous architect that lived in Chicago. He designed several buildings in Chicago. Some of them are still there today. I'm from Chicago. I know this. All right. If you really want to know about Frank Burnham, okay, then you really need to read that book, Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. Okay, it's an incredible book. All right, but Burnham, anyway, he was charged with creating the World's Fair of 1883. And what he did was he hired all these people, an incredible number of employees that came into Chicago, okay, just to work on this fair, okay? And what he designed, he had to design something really quick. They only had like 9 months to build this thing, okay? So he had to design all these temporary buildings. Only one of them, which is the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, that's the only one that's still around. But that one was built permanently. All the other buildings for this city that they were building in Jackson Park were temporary, okay? They just spray painted them white. It was made of wood, and nails, and it wasn't meant to last, okay? So they built this entire city inside of Jackson Park and Washington Park in Chicago, okay? And that's in the south side. It's a bad neighborhood. Don't go there today. Okay, but back then, I guess it was a nice neighborhood, all right? So they hired all these people. A lot of foreigners were coming into Chicago just to work on this thing, okay? And one of the people, incidentally, one of the people that they hired was a carpenter, okay? A carpenter named Elias Disney. Okay, he was one of the many laborers that they hired to build this temporary city. Later on, okay, he would tell his young son, Walt, stories about this magical white city that he helped build, okay? And that's something that that his son, Walt Disney, would remember for the rest of his life. The stories his father told him, okay, about this magical white city in Chicago that he built, okay? The first American serial killer, okay, H.H. Holmes, he had a hotel right down the street. It was the kind of hotel where you check in, but you never check out. Okay, where there was like gas chambers hidden in there. There was torture rooms in there. He had a furnace in the basement specifically for cooking human bodies. Okay, that kind of thing, okay? Yeah, H.H. Holmes, a lot of his victims were people that were staying in his hotel that were in town to go to the World's Fair. Okay, the Columbian Exhibition is what the World's Fair was called, all right? But anyway, because they had to build this entire city temporarily for in a very short amount of time, okay, they didn't have time to paint everything, okay, all these different colors. So everything was painted white. Everything was just painted white, and that's where you got the idea of the white city. Well, obviously, L. Frank Baum was living in Chicago at that time when that was going on. He went to the World's Fair, and he saw that everything was white. This is beautiful. This is a white city. Now, obviously, he couldn't use white city in his book, so he just got a color that he liked, green, emerald. Emerald's better. So that's where we got the Emerald City, was because of the white city from the World's Fair of 1883. I bet you didn't know that. And by the way, one more thing about the World's Fair, because I love this topic, right? They had to find something that was bigger than the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower was announced at the Paris World's Fair. That was several years earlier. Okay, in Paris, that was when the Eiffel Tower was revealed to the world, tallest building in the world at that time. Well, now America was going to do the World's Fair in Chicago, and they had to come up with something that could out Eiffel. And they didn't know what to make. Well, this guy named George Washington Ferris, he had this crazy idea, never been done before. What about if I just make a big bicycle wheel? Okay, a big bicycle wheel. We'll put people on it, it'll spin around up in the air. Never been tested before. On paper, it makes sense. It will work. They did the mathematics to see if the steel would hold the weight and all that kind of stuff. They did all that. But no one had actually built a prototype of this before to see if it would actually work. Okay, so they just built it. Okay, George Washington Ferris, he built this big wheel that put people on and spin, and that's where we got the Ferris wheel. All right. A lot of other things about that, but that's what we're talking about right now, okay? L. Frank Baum created basically a lot of the Wizard of Oz based on his own experiences, people that he knew, and where he was living, which is Chicago, which is, by the way, where I'm from. I'm from Chicago, all right? So just give you a little backstory about the Wizard of Oz. You might have already known this stuff, maybe you didn't, I don't know, okay? But basically, L. Frank Baum, he wrote a book called Father Goose, which was a big hit. And based on the royalties from that is where he parlayed. He decided to publish The Wizard of Oz himself because his publisher would not publish it. Okay, so he took he took all the royalties that he was making from Father Goose and he used that to pay the publisher to publish The Wizard of Oz. Luckily, The Wizard of Oz was a huge success. And L. Frank Baum ended up writing like another 12 sequels, but he never had to work hard for the rest of his life. He wrote another 12 sequels to The Wizard of Oz, which they've never made into movie. Hello, Hollywood. You've got 12 sequels to The Wizard of Oz written by the actual author, and no one has ever made a sequel of those. I think, there was a Return to Oz in the 80s. With Faruka Balk was in that. I forgot about that. And Piper Laurie was in that. I forgot about that one. I actually saw that when I was a little kid. That's the only one. Okay? There's 11 other books that L. Frank Baum wrote that are sequels to The Wizard of Oz, and nobody's made movies out of them. What the hell? Okay, this is a franchise. He built the franchise over 100 years ago, and nobody's taking advantage of it. All right. The Gregory Maguire created all this stuff this is fan fiction. Wicked is fan fiction. Okay? Anyway, moving right along. Okay, so where we left off last time, obviously Elphaba now is friends with Glinda. Okay, they had their little stupid ass gay, performance dance, at the club, and then they abandoned Fiyero there and went back, okay, to their dorm room where they became sisters, and did all that kind of crap. Now they're bonded. They like each other. They exchanged secrets. Okay, Glinda said that Fiyero was going to ask her to marry him, even though he has no idea he's going to do that because he doesn't want to. All right, but tell that to Glinda. She don't believe it. Okay, and of course, Elphaba revealed that her mother died. Her biological mother died because her dad made her eat a bunch of white flowers because she was pregnant again, and he didn't want his second child to be born with green skin like her. But instead, her sister was born with crippled. Her legs don't work. That's why she's in a wheelchair now. And her mother died, okay? So she blames herself for her mother dying, okay? And for her sister being in a wheelchair, all right? Which, of course, is not her fault, but, of course, she's going to take it on because that's what she is. All right. So anyway, so that's going on here, okay? Since they bonded now, they exchanged secrets. Okay, Glinda decides that Elphaba is going to be her new pet project. Now, Glinda is the most popular girl at Shiz University, which is the Hogwarts ripoff. Okay, yes, Harry Potter was written before this was. Okay, you cannot tell me that Gregory Maguire did not read Harry Potter before he wrote this shit. Okay, he most certainly did. Okay. Shiz University, okay? And because Glinda's so popular, I'm guessing that's the reason that she does not have to wear the school uniform like every other kid in this school does, okay? Even Fiyero is a fucking prince, okay? And he has to wear the fucking uniform, okay? But yet Glinda, who's just a rich girl, okay, doesn't have to wear the school uniform. She used to walk into her classes in her pink outfits, okay? Everything she owns is pink. She does not have to conform to the rules that all the other students have to, and it's never explained why. All right. So anyway, so that's going on, and she decides that she's going to start calling Elphaba Elfie from now on, which Elphaba does not like. Okay. And she says she can call me Glinda. All right. And she decides she's going to be her new project. She's going to turn Elphaba into a popular girl. You're going to be popular, which is the segue which leads into the song Popular, which is sung by Ariana Grande in this movie, okay? It's a stupid-ass song. I don't really give a shit about it because I'm not a fucking gay and I'm not a fucking teeny bopper girl either. All right, but anyway, so Glinda starts dancing around the room, okay? And she swings around, like there's like a chandelier. She swings around it and stuff. She's a very skinny girl. You get a really good look at Ariana Grande's body. She's very skinny. She's got no ass. She got no legs, no tits. Okay, her head is really big, super skinny neck, skinny arms. Okay, she's got a big chin because she's had chin work done, even though she's 31 years old. And her nose, okay, she's had her nose done. Okay, which is sad for a young woman, But well, they're doing it younger now. All right. So anyway, so she's running around, okay, and apparently all of her dressers, she has a lot of these dresser chests that you kick them and they automatically open up for you. They're like automatic, all right. Anyway, so she's popular, okay, and her dresses are all mechanical, okay, and she says like your life is going to change because of me. That's what Glinda says. Your life is going to change because of me, Elphaba. Okay, you're going to be popular like me. I'm going to make you popular just like me. Okay, and she shows her how to do the hair toss. She's always tossing her hair all the damn time. Okay, that's like Glinda's thing, to toss her hair. Okay, so she gives her a class on how to toss her hair. Okay, and Glinda magic wand doesn't work. Now Glinda has the magic wand because she's going to start taking the sorcerer. Was it the sorcerer seminar? Okay, Elphaba got her into the class. So the teacher, Madame Morrible, gave her a wand, but Glinda doesn't know how to use it, but she's trying to use it right now. Okay, and she puts pink flowers in Elphaba's hair. And of course, the usual, female self-esteem shit. Oh, you look so beautiful, which is crap. Okay, most women don't really. I mean, they'll tell an ugly girl she's beautiful, but deep down inside they know that they're prettier than her. Okay, so I don't buy any of this shit. Okay, that's why women need to be a little bit more like men when it comes to shit like that. Okay, we will tell you you're fucking ugly. Okay, we will tell each other you're fat. Okay, we do that all the time. Okay, because it's better to be honest than to be delusional. All right. Anyway, so there's this mirror moment there, okay, where she puts pink flowers. Yeah, they stare in front of the mirror. Oh, they pose in front of the mirror, okay, with Elphaba with the flower in her hair, okay. You're beautiful. No, you're not. You're ugly as fuck, okay, because, a gay guy wrote this, okay, so he's trying to appeal to women here. That's why it's happening, okay. And you will bullshit each other all the time. Don't even pretend. You think we don't realize what you're doing? When we see an ugly woman and you tell her she's beautiful, do you really? I mean, you think it's fucking Sex and City? I reviewed every fucking episode of Sex and the City, okay? I even remember the fucking movie, okay, where Carrie told, remember when Samantha showed up all fat now, she gained a lot of weight, and Carrie told her, oh, women are beautiful at any size. Yeah, get the fuck out of here, okay? Ripley don't believe that shit, okay? And men don't either. Anyway, you're beautiful. You're welcome. The fake crap that you girls do all the time. Okay, and she dances around the hallways and shit, and singing about how popular she is, and how she's the best thing ever, and then she does her pose, because she's got to get that done. It's important to the story. Anyway, so the next day, Elphaba practices tossing her hair on her way to class. And of course, she doesn't realize that Fiyero is lurking there in the shadows, hiding and watching her. He does that a lot. Okay, when Glinda was manipulating Bach to asking out Nessa Rose, okay, during the library scene, okay, he was also there in the corner, creeping up on her, watching her do her thing, so he does that a lot. He just sneaks up on you, okay? And so he notices Elphaba playing with her hair. He's like, oh, you've been hanging out with Glinda. You don't have to do that. So, by the way, why do I have a British accent and no one else here does? And then he walks off to class, and of course, Elphaba, she follows him because, she's in love. Okay. And so that's going on here. Okay. And they go to class, and Elphaba, Elphaba brings Dr. Dillamon. This is the history class. Dr. Dillamon is a talking goat. He's a professor. He's a talking goat that wears glasses. This is the class that they're in, and she goes up to them, and she has a gift for him, a bunch of poppies, some flowers. These are the flowers that Dorothy breathed in The Wizard of Oz and knocked her out. Okay, these are the flowers, the poppies, and she presents some to Dr. Dillamon because she knows those are his favorite flowers, all right? And he tells her, not right now. Right now's a bad time. Okay, so he dismisses her, and she's like, oh, wow. Was he being an asshole? I'm his friend. Why is he being that way to me? So she sits down the rest of the class, okay? He's obviously upset. And he tells the whole class that he's been fired. He's no longer going to be the history professor here because there's a new rule now. Animals are no longer allowed to teach at Shiz University, okay? Okay, and then all of a sudden the campus security guys, oh, they have security guards here? Where the fuck have they been? I guess they were at the gay bar because they sure as fuck don't stop any of the students from sneaking in and off base. In and off the fucking campus in the late hours of the night, whenever the fuck they want to. But apparently they exist. Who knew? Okay. Anyway, if they ever got their dicks out of each other's asses, they could actually patrol the campus, and maybe protect the kids and shit. But anyway, but they're there to throw out the fucking talking goat, though. So they show up and they march in there, and make a big spectacle out of it. They arrest him in front of the whole class, which you shouldn't do. Okay. And they kick him out. Elphaba is really upset. She's really upset because she likes Dr. Dillamon. Okay, she likes him a lot. She respects him a lot. Okay, she understands what's happening to all the animals. All the talking animals are being persecuted on Oz, and she doesn't understand why, but he's been pointing that out. And because of that, everybody, the PR campaign right now against the animals is pretty high. So people are starting to accept that animals are second-class citizens and start treat them like shit. They already put some hate speech on the back of his blackboard earlier in the movie. Okay, so all the animals are being treated like shit. They're being persecuted, and she's tired of this. Okay, Elphaba is like, okay, I'm not the only one being persecuted because I'm ugly and green-skinned. Okay, but animals are also being treated like me. Okay, and that's not fair. Okay, I won't stand for it. You got to remember, Elphaba's mother died when she was born, or after she was born. But, her dad didn't really raise her, okay? Her dad can't stand her. Can't stand her. He loves his other daughter, Nissa Rose, but he can't stand his first daughter, Elphaba, okay? The only person that showed Elphaba any love when she was growing up was a fucking talking bear, okay? A bear, an animal. So, of course, she's very sensitive to animals, okay? And here's this goat, this nice goat being persecuted, and she doesn't want to stand for it, and she can't believe that none of the other students in class are doing anything about it. You know why they're not? You know why they're not doing anything about it? Elphaba, because they're all fucking conservatives. That's why, because they're all a bunch of Nazis and KKK members, and only the liberals can save anybody from anything. Ain't that right? Huh? Yeah, pretty much. Okay, you want to be gaslighted into being a fucking Antifa? Okay, this is the movie for you, especially this shit like this. Let's just pretend that it's not the professors telling the students to go out there and harass the conservatives, okay? And persecute the conservatives, okay? And do violent speech against conservatives. That's what's really happening in real fucking life. But in this movie, it's the opposite. Anyway, so Elphaba, of course, is an activist. She's Antifa. Okay, and she's pissed off that none of the students are doing anything about what's happening to Dr. Dillamon. Okay, so that's going on here. All right, Okay, and the new professor shows up. he's a human, of course, and he comes in there with a small cage, and inside that cage is a cub. It's a baby lion. Yeah, sound familiar? The lion who's scared. Of course, it's a cowardly lion. Get it? The little baby cub is afraid of everything. It's a cowardly lion. All right. Anyway, so that's going on here. Okay, and he's got it caged. The little cub in there is obviously terrified, and Elphaba points out that the cub is scared. Okay, and caging animals prevents them from learning how to speak. If you treat animals like pet, they don't get educated. Hence they can't hold a conversation. All right. Apparently that's the rule in Oz. All right. So that's going on here. Okay, and Elphaba says, like animals being caged, so they never learn to speak. Okay, like I said, she was raised by a bear. Okay, what are we going to do about it? Of course, Antifa. And she slams the flowers that she was going to give to Dr. Dillamon. She slams the flowers onto the desk. And all of a sudden, the poppies go up in the air, which all of a sudden renders the entire classroom unconscious, except for Fiyero. Everyone else, Glinda, Shen, Fanny, the entire class, the new professor, everybody is knocked out. Well, I guess the lion, the cub is not knocked out, I don't think. Okay, but everyone's knocked out except for Elphaba and Fiyero. For somehow Fiyero is not knocked unconscious. How is that possible? How did Elphaba make the poppy seeds avoid him, even though he's right there? Glinda passed out on his shoulder. He's right next to Glinda, and she passed out. Somehow Elphaba did it. It's not explained. I guess because she's the chosen one. Okay? So that's going on here. Okay, she saves the flowers. Fiyero is not affected. Okay, and Fiyero frees the cub. They get the cub out of the cage, and they leave the campus. They run out of there with the cub. Okay? Okay, and they put the cub to the cowardly lion. They put it in the back of a basket on the back of a bicycle. Like, yes, they have bicycles in Oz. Okay? Now, you remember this, Mrs. Gulch from The Wizard of Oz. Remember how she put Toto in that basket that he can easily escape from? Okay, well, now they're doing that to the cowardly lion. They put it in the basket that you can easily escape from, but the cowardly lion does not escape. He's too afraid. So that's what they do, and they ride the bicycle out to the woods. Okay, and they're over by a creek. Okay, and all of a sudden, Madame Morrible walks in there after Elphaba and Fiyero left, and she sees that everyone's been knocked unconscious. She notices that Fiyero and Elphaba are missing, and she's like, Now, in case you didn't know, Madame Morrible is the sorcery instructor at Shish. She actually has magical powers over weather. Okay, and she's been grooming Elphaba to meet the wizard. She's been trying to get Elphaba to be more in control of her powers, because remember, she's the chosen one. Okay, so she automatically knows that Elphaba did this, knocked out the entire class. This is exactly the kind of person that the Wizard of Oz wants. Okay, and so she is going to start putting things in motion to get Elphaba and the wizard together. Okay, so that's going on here. Okay, anyway, all right, so I'm going to stop my review right here, but I'll be back shortly to continue my review But Wicked, I thank you for watching this long, and I will see you soon on the next one. Bye.